What are the consequences for shared physical custody for social inequalities for children and their destiny? So, on the one hand, if the socioeconomic profile of shared custody families becomes more heterogeneous, then this living arrangement could be more demographically distributed and therefore reduce differences among children of divorce and separation. On the contrary, if it remains selective for children with higher parental resources, then it creates even more inequality among children. So it's not an irrelevant question. And the literature on divergent destiny does not consider that children may experience additional inequalities after separation due to an unequal distribution of care arrangements, so custody arrangements rather. So there has been already work by Anna that shows that children with higher parental resources have a lower probability of parental separation, while the opposite is true for the children of higher economic resources. There has been actually a reversal that has been shown with the census data for Spain. In 2011, we see that there are many more divorces among those who have lower socioeconomic background than higher. So it reversed the trend. And this is true also for other European countries, as Hugo Hartgren has shown. So this brings the question whether children with higher parental resources may also have higher probability now of living in shared physical custody. We saw that this was the case at the beginning of this new arrangement, but now we don't know. So this is the first hypothesis that we make. And then it has been argued that shared physical custody is more expensive than solo custody, and therefore could be more difficult for parents with lower means, with lower resources, to easily go into it. So are those parents that enter shared physical custody and have difficulties to run it, experiences difficulties that are transmitted to children? So are these children suffering differently or reacting differently to shared physical custody? So basically the question is shared physical custody good for all children, or is it differentially beneficial for children with higher and lower resources? And depending on the answer to these questions, actually the consequence will be that the diffusion of shared physical custody and even its democratization may still be raising inequality among children. So this is what we try to test with this subsequent hypothesis. On the one hand, we want to see whether parental resources do drive differences between children in shared physical custody and solo custody in terms of outcomes, and we will see what kind of outcomes. And then, if it is the case, well, is it because the high resource children benefit more, or do they benefit less? So is it compensatory or floor effect hypothesis? And if the low resource children benefit less, well, this is certainly a bad development for them. And so it increases divergent destinies rather than making converging destinies. For children destinies to converge rather than to diverge, there should be as a condition that the prevalence of shared physical custody among children of different social strata would be similar. For the Spanish case, though, we have evidence elsewhere that there is an increase in shared physical custody, but also in socioeconomic stratification of families. So there is a growing divide between two parents and other families. And there is no democratization of shared physical custody among children of separation and divorce. So our hypothesis one was confirmed in that sense. Then another condition would be that parental resources should not be compensatory for consequences of separation and divorce in order to converge their destinies. And yet we find that children of high parental resources have better outcomes in case of shared physical custody and sole custody compared to those with low economic resources. So actually this is not the case. There is a compensation effect, so there is one less possibility for convergence. And third, the benefits for shared physical custody should be the same for children from different socioeconomic background, or even higher for children of lower parental resources, which is not the case. We cannot say it's the opposite, but we cannot say that this is the case. So there is third opportunity for convergence through shared physical custody is not there. Now, is shared physical custody contributing to the increase in social inequalities among children in Spain? It's a possibility that is not tested much in the literature, and that's what we have tried to do, that we want to see whether this hype on shared physical custody is actually not only for psychological reasons, but also for social inequality reasons at the society level justified. So, family stratification shows that socioeconomic gradient of separation and divorce and distribution of post-separation living arrangements across social groups is there. There is definitely more need for research on this living arrangement, especially that doesn't control only for different social economic background, but actually they use it as a moderator to see the differences playing out, eventually maybe seeing that there are different paths, different ways in which they operate in different groups. There is definitely more need for longitudinal studies. We are limited here by the cross-sectional nature of the data. Of course, if we want to know the link between conditions of parental separation, parental resources of both parents, custody arrangement and children outcomes, we cannot do without a prospective study. Or even, it would have been enough to have at least some information retrospectively on when the different custody arrangements were started. Here we cannot even know the difference between those who are being in shared physical custody for a long time or for a short time. So we don't have neither longitudinal retrospective nor prospective studies.